Thank you, Wind Ensemble. Thank you, Queen's Guard. Thank you, choir. Please be seated. Happy Charter Day, William and Mary. To everyone here in our house, Kaplan Arena, and everyone watching via live stream, welcome. We begin our ceremony with the university's land acknowledgement, followed by reflections on the Royal Charter.
William and Mary acknowledges the indigenous peoples who are the original inhabitants of the lands our campus is on today. The Cherenhaka Nottoway, Chickahominy, Eastern Chickahominy, Mattaponi, Monacan, Nansmond, Nottoway, Pamunkey, Potomac, Upper Mattaponi, and Rappahannock tribes, and pay our respect to the tribal members, past and present.
William and Mary, by the grace of God, of England, Scotland, France, and Ireland, King and Queen, defenders of the faith, etc. To all to whom these our present letters shall come, greeting. For as much as our well-beloved and faithful subjects, constituting the General Assembly of our colony of Virginia, have had it in their minds to make, found, and establish a certain place of universal study or perpetual college of divinity, philosophy, languages, and other good arts and sciences, to be supported and maintained for all time coming. That they may have power to erect, found, and establish a certain place of universal study upon the south side of York River. And further, we will, and for us, our heirs and successors, by these presents do grant, that when the said college shall be so erected, made, founded, and established, it shall be called and denominated forever the College of William and Mary in Virginia. In testimony whereof we have caused these our letters to be made patent. Witness ourselves at Westminster, the 8th day of February in the 4th year of our reign, by writ of the Privy Seal.
We are so pleased to recognize distinguished guests and leaders. Please stand when you're recognized. Members of William and Mary's Board of Visitors, led by Rector Charles Poston. Our Chancellor, the Honorable Robert M. Gates. President Emeritus Taylor Reevely. The faculty of William and Mary. Tribal leaders who join William and Mary in teaching and research partnerships. Military personnel and veterans, please stand. Thank you for your sacrifice on behalf of our nation. Members of Student Assembly, Students for University Advancement, and President's Aides. Thanks to all the student leaders serving this community. And we formally welcome the newest members of our community, Spring 2026 new students. Please stand as you're able. At Charter Day, we also recognize several award recipients. The Alumni Association's highest honor, the Alumni Medallion, will be presented tomorrow. This year's recipients are Elizabeth Jennings, Leanne Kurland, Devin Murphy, and Stu Spurn. Earlier this week, William and Mary presented this year's Jefferson Awards to Professor Randy Chambers, Professor Jennifer Lorden, and Kate Carline, class of 2026. We also presented the Monroe Prize in Civic Leadership to Jason Zhang, also class of 2026. Thank you all for joining us here at the U.S. 250th Centennial. During this landmark year, we are exploring what it means to be the alma mater of the nation in the 21st century. For 333 years, William and Mary has prepared brilliant minds to lead. In the words of one cherished statesman, "What William and Mary gave me, above all else, was a calling to serve, a sense of duty to community and country that this university has sought to instill in each generation of students. Today, we have a special obligation to build upon that legacy. Our students carry a strong sense of duty. I love that quiet, old-fashioned word. They come here seeking a community that grows through civil debate and service. Our responsibility as the alma mater of the nation is to teach them how powerful those qualities are and to prepare them to use them as citizens and professionals throughout the rest of their lives in this century. Let me look back for just a moment to the groundwork we laid in Vision 2026, the strategic plan that we closed this year. We launched a School of Computing, William and Mary's first new school in a half a century. Every student has trained in our Better Arguments curriculum. They know that honorable people may deeply disagree and that we grow in that disagreement if we conduct it in respectful ways. The Batten School of Coastal and Marine Sciences at VIMS is the national leader for advancing coastal resilience. We dramatically slowed the growth of tuition. We made a guarantee to our students that if you can secure your dream internship and it is unpaid or underfunded, we will make sure you have the funding to accept it. Over the past year, our year of the environment, William & Mary has evolved our campus for long-term sustainability. We published the university's first ever campus comprehensive plan, bringing student housing and dining into the 21st century. We are adapting our classrooms for today's teachers and learners, stewarding our beautiful campus for the next 100 years. 531 geothermal wells show dramatic savings already, up to $1 million a year, alleviating pressure on future student fees over the coming century. Think about it. We are preserving beloved green space. We are heating and cooling historic buildings so much more efficiently. We're saving millions of dollars. How cool is that? I hope that what you're hearing is that to us, what it means to be the alma mater of the nation is that we persistently pursue excellence. We evolve to meet the needs of the present and the future so we can remain the dream school of the 21st century, the best place for every graduate to launch their career, whatever path they choose. In closing, as we enter this U.S. quarter millennium, the final year of our Vision 2026 strategic plan, it is my pleasure to launch formally William & Mary's Year of Civic Leadership. I invite everyone to join us as we honor our community's foundational role in establishing U.S. democracy and work together to strengthen those foundations for the future. I'm so grateful for the committee's work in organizing this incredible year, led by Dr. Roxanne Adler-Hickey. Let's thank them. There's Roxanne. There she is. We've prepared a video to set the stage. Following the video, we will welcome Rector Charles Poston for the reinvestiture of William & Mary's 24th Chancellor. Thank you.
"60 years ago, I walked these grounds as an undergraduate. A history major, I was inspired by the role this small corner of our country and this university played in shaping the United States of America.
The King and Queen of England, William and Mary, said that they wanted to have a perpetual college of the liberal arts and other good sciences here for all time coming. But an odd thing happened. The Royal College became the very seat of the intellectual discussions that led to the American Revolution, which is why we're the alma mater of the nation.
This is still where the founders and the early leaders of our nation were educated. And this is still a place where we seek to prepare a new generation to become the leaders of the future.
The education you have received at William & Mary has encouraged you more than ever before to think critically, to ask questions, and to lead with integrity. And the world needs all of that, and it needs all of us.
Today, we are unceasing in our efforts to make a meaningful difference in our communities, the state, the nation, and the world.
As long as we keep in mind the lessons taught to us and remain committed to the belief that we can better ourselves and contribute to the world in which we reside, we are ready to shape the institutions we'll encounter in the years to come.
I have no doubt that today's graduates and scholars of William & Mary have a special role in the American quest. We have a special obligation to embrace that quest as an opportunity as well as a responsibility. That is the challenge that lies before us, one for which William & Mary has prepared its students for 330 years.
It is a rare and special occasion when we invest a chancellor, and a unique moment to invest one for a third term. Chancellor Gates is the longest-serving chancellor in William & Mary's history. Mr. Chancellor, please join me. The President says that this is an investiture. It's more like a re-enlistment ceremony, I think. In November, the Board of Visitors unanimously elected Chancellor Gates to a historic third term. To commemorate this occasion, the university commissioned an illuminated manuscript of the resolution, which Student Assembly President Wang and Graduate Council President Jurassic will present. It is there as they are holding it. The resolution states, whereas Dr. Gates has served 8 presidents of the United States, and whereas Dr. Gates is the only individual in American history to serve as Secretary of Defense under presidents of both political parties, and whereas his career has been recognized by the nation's highest honors, including the Presidential Medal of Freedom, and whereas, as Chancellor, Dr. Gates has often visited the campus with his wife, Becky, serving as a trusted advisor to President Emeritus Reevely and President Rowe, a mentor to students, a champion for faculty, and a global ambassador for William & Mary, embodying its values of leadership, learning, and service. Now, therefore, be it resolved that upon recommendation of the President, the Board of Visitors of the College of William & Mary in Virginia hereby reappoints the Honorable Robert M. Gates to a third term as 24th Chancellor. Now the Chancellor, we hope, will honor us by speaking to us.
Thank you, Rector Poston. First and foremost, I want to thank the Board of Visitors for approving the resolution appointing me for a third term as Chancellor. I'm grateful for your confidence and for your support. Congratulations, Governor Spanberger and Mr. Burns, on your richly deserved honorary degrees. The Governor and I are both alumni of the Central Intelligence Agency. Although by my reckoning, Governor, when I retired as director, you were in 8th grade. And I will have the privilege this coming May as National Chairman of the Eisenhower Fellowships to present Mr. Burns with the Dwight D. Eisenhower Medal for Public Service. You both honor us by your presence here today. Since it was announced that I had agreed to serve a third term as Chancellor, I've been asked the same question over again. Why would you do that? First and most obviously, because of the wardrobe. This unique blending of medieval academic tradition and Lady Gaga. Second, because of the caliber of our university's leadership at all levels and my optimism about our future. The faculty, deans, and Board of Visitors, led by Rector Poston, are all people of the highest quality and dedication to our students and our college. During my first term, for nearly 7 years, I enjoyed a wonderful relationship with Taylor Reevely and admired his leadership. Taylor, thank you for being here today. When I was approached about signing up for a second term, I said my decision would depend entirely on who was chosen to succeed Taylor as president. The selection of Catherine Rowe made my decision very easy. Catherine has provided William & Mary not only with great leadership, but also with dedication to strengthening its ancient traditions, even as she has brought sweeping energy and change and ideas for innovation and achievements. I immensely enjoy working with Catherine, and I'm very enthusiastic about our university's future with her as president. A third reason for re-enlisting is the students here. Engaging with William & Mary's students is incredibly rewarding. Their ideas, their enthusiasm, their passion for serving others is truly extraordinary. William & Mary is a university of great historical accomplishment, and the university is primed for even greater accomplishments in the future because of the students here today. And they are really smart. In fact, I'm pretty confident I couldn't get admitted here now. Fourth and finally, I want to continue because William & Mary gives me hope. I've worked for 8 presidents and known many politicians in both parties over nearly 6 decades. And I never met one who had a monopoly on revealed truth. At a time when our country faces deep challenges at home and abroad, we have too many leaders across the political spectrum who think they alone have the right answers. who demonize those who think differently, and who refuse to listen and to take other points of view into account. As we celebrate the 250th anniversary of our nation's founding, the good news for America is that even though we have a lot of work to do and serious obstacles ahead of us, we also have the power and the means to overcome them, just as this country has overcome big challenges in the past. However, it will take a willingness to make tough decisions, the willingness to listen and to learn from one another, the ability to see and understand other points of view, and the wisdom to calibrate principle and compromise for the greater good of our country. These qualities comprise the history and essence of the William and Mary experience. That experience will be front and center in this year of civic leadership. In and out of the classroom, William and Mary inspires a sense of duty to serve our country and our community. Here, students learn about the rights and privileges of citizenship, but they also learn about the obligations and duties we have as citizens. It was here that I first was exposed to such an environment. Grounded in what I learned here, I have spent a lifetime in public service of one kind or another. In the great and urgent endeavors that lie before us, I have no doubt that the graduates and scholars of William and Mary, this community of learning, listening, and working through issues, rooted in the original soil and in the basic principles of American liberty, this university community has a special role and a special obligation to be part of the solution, as leaders, as public servants, as citizens. I'm proud and honored to continue to serve as Chancellor of this great university, truly the alma mater of a nation, as it helps determine our country's future course, as it has been doing for more than 3 centuries. Thank you.
I think the best way to describe Ken Burns is seeker. He's someone who is looking for an understanding of who we are as Americans, who we are individually. And so the impact of his work is significant.
It has been the great pleasure of my life to know very early on what I wanted to do, what kind of film I wanted to do, asking a very simple question: who are we? Who are those strange and complicated people who like to call themselves Americans? And what does an investigation of the past tell us about not only where we've been, but where we are and where we may be going?
Ken Burns' impact on how Americans understand these varying parts of history cannot be understated. The Civil War is his most impactful piece to me. It's an earlier work that blew it out of the park in terms of its impact. The Civil War history and the exploration of that for the general public expanded exponentially. And it has been an extraordinary journey watching his evolution as a filmmaker. So whether it was baseball, which I loved, or jazz, which I loved, he has had a lasting and will have a lasting impact.
My late father-in-law said to me that what I did for a living was wake the dead. So in a way, what I've done is to sort of figure out how to wake the dead, to make the past, which for most people is some boring subject that couldn't possibly have any relevance, not only have relevance, but make the people who exist in that past come alive and show that they are very much like us.
Ken Burns is absolutely fitting to receive an honorary doctorate from William and Mary. And the reason is real simple. I mean, this is an institution that basically from its founding has been about broadening the mind. It has been about exploration. It has been about curiosity. All of those are qualities that Ken Burns absolutely has and displays in everything.
When I'm there in Williamsburg, when I'm on the campus, you sort of feel like you're in a time machine in which you've been given this very special privilege to go back and to begin to unravel the DNA of who we are, where you can see the beginning of the formation of the ideas that created the country that I've spent more than 50 years trying to understand in 40 plus films over the course of that period. It's an extraordinary honor, and I'm humbled and very, very grateful.
I stepped up too early.
You're right. It's me. We were inspired by that wonderful video, but it is my role to say first, thank you, Mr. Chancellor, for those inspiring remarks. We're honored that you've once again answered alma mater's call to serve, and to put this in perspective, George Washington's tenure was only 11 years. Okay, so just saying. This is the time in which we confer honorary degrees, as you now know. In 1756, Benjamin Franklin became the first recipient of an honorary degree at William & Mary. This year, the university confers honors to the keeper of U.S. history, Ken Burns. Right? Okay. And Virginia's newly inaugurated governor, the Honorable Abigail Spanberger. Right, so we have seen the marvelous video introducing Ken Burns, and I invite the rector and Mr. Burns to the podium.
We got it right this time. Kenneth Lauren Burns, you embrace America's complexity with insight and integrity. Your award-winning documentaries about our country's past illuminate our present so that we can shape the future. As you have said, there is much drama in what is and what was, as anything the human imagination dreams of. In the history of American public media, your films define documentary as a form in the 21st century. They explore revolutions in many forms, from music to sports to warfare. Your camera and microphone travel history's byways, in the field and the archive, across oceans and continents, and often to William & Mary's own backyard. Your most recent series, The American Revolution, makes vivid the labor required for a pluralistic democracy to flourish and why our institutions remain worthwhile today. The New York Times hailed you as the most accomplished documentary filmmaker of your generation, with 17 Emmy Awards, 2 Grammy Awards, and 2 Oscar nominations for the Civil War. The Academy of Television Arts and Sciences honored you with the Lifetime Achievement Award, and you have been inducted into the Television Academy Hall of Fame. These laurels fuel your commitment to aspiring filmmakers by co-founding the Better Angel Society to preserve American voices through documentary film. You help cultivate the next generation of moral storytellers. Kenneth Lauren Burns, during this year of civic leadership at the turn of the U.S. quarter millennium, William & Mary proudly honors your commitment to our country.
By virtue of the authority vested in me by the Board of Visitors and the ancient royal charter of the College of William & Mary in Virginia, I hereby confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Arts, honoris causa.
Congratulations. Very well deserved. Mr. Chancellor, thank you so much.
I'm going to leave this here.
Okay.
But it's yours.
Thank you. Wow. Mark Twain got an honorary degree at Oxford with Rudyard Kipling and Camille Saint-Saëns, the composer, and someone asked him about how this kid born in the Missouri backwoods, felt about this honor. He said, it was cool, but the clothes were even better, Mr. Chancellor. Governor Spanberger, congratulations on this great honor and your historic achievement. One less William, and now a Mary. The Commonwealth is in good hands. We wish you every success. Rector Charles Poston, Chancellor Gates, President Rowe, other members of the Board of Visitors, distinguished faculty and staff, alumni, students, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I am deeply moved and humbled by this acknowledgement, that you might find what I have to say worthy of your attention on so important a day. Thank you. I'm just so happy to be caught up in your whirlwind for just an afternoon. Listen, many, many years ago, not long after I graduated from college, while working on my first film for PBS on the history of the Brooklyn Bridge and its great designer, John A. Roebling, I decided rather rashly that I had to interview the now late playwright Arthur Miller, and he had, after several pleading phone calls by me, rather reluctantly agreed. Miller had written, of course, a play called A View from the Bridge, and every edition of the book featured the Brooklyn Bridge on it. I was sure Miller would be able to shed some light on what I had come to believe was the greatest suspension bridge in the world, that remarkable amalgam of stone and steel, which after its improbable and dramatic construction became a source of sublime inspiration to artists and poets, photographers, and even filmmakers for more than a century, a symbol of strength, vitality, ingenuity, and promise. But on the long drive to Miller's Connecticut farm, I had picked up a copy of the play and discovered to my horror that there was not a single mention of the bridge in it. It was merely the background for a complicated family drama completely unrelated to the themes of my film. Students, clearly the timeless message here is do your homework. I was mortified, and it seemed like only a few panic-stricken minutes later that we pulled into his drive and I nervously knocked at the great man's door. The first thing a very, very tall and very imposing and very gruff Arthur Miller said to me when he opened the door was, "You know, I don't know a damn thing." He didn't say that. "I don't know a damn thing about the Brooklyn Bridge." I stood there for several moments in abject shame and my own humiliation, contemplating suicide. When he finally looked down and relented and said, "Okay, perhaps I can give you something. Come with me." Now, we had been planning to set up an elaborate interview around a favorite chair in his house or his office or his den, to take several hours to adjust the lighting, to film several rolls of film, but Miller wouldn't even let me into his house, directing me to his backyard, where the late afternoon shadows of a perfect fall day were lengthening. "Let's go now," he said, and we all knew he meant it. Clearly, in his mind, this was not going to waste any more of his time than need be, and we weren't going to be staying long either. We scrambled to take a quick light reading and put the 16mm camera up on the tripod. There was only a few minutes left on the roll of film that was still in the magazine of the camera from the morning shoot. The sound man fumbled with his reel-to-reel tape recorder, checking the levels. But now Miller refused even to sit down. He would do it standing up, or not at all. And we rushed to find an apple crate I could stand on to approximate his height, but of course never his stature. "Let's go now," he said again, clearly impatient with our, in retrospect, utter ineptitude. And we were completely flabbergasted. We had never done an interview where the subject wasn't quietly posed in some study or living room. My heart was pounding out of my chest. I can remember to this day the anxiety I felt to this day. Today, let us celebrate the messages the past, our common heritage, our common memory continually directs our way. Let us listen. Too often as a culture, we have ignored this difficult but often joyful historical noise, becoming in the process blissfully ignorant of the power those past lives and stories and moments have over this moment, and indeed our vast unknown future. Today, our founding story, the most important event in world history since the birth of Christ, runs the danger of being smothered in fife and drum treacle, bloodless, sanitized, youthless. But I am interested in the power of an authentic history, and I am interested in its many varied voices, not just the voices of the old top-down version of our past, which would try to convince us that American history is only the story of great men, capital G, capital M. And certainly not just those pessimistic voices that have recently entered our studies, voices which seem to say that our history is merely a catalog of white European crimes. I am interested in listening to the voices of a true, honest, complicated past that is unafraid of controversy and tragedy, but equally drawn to those voices, those stories and moments that suggest an abiding faith in the human spirit, and particularly the unique role this remarkable and, yes, sometimes dysfunctional republic seems to play in the positive progress of mankind. That, quite simply, ladies and gentlemen, has been my creed, my mantra, the lens through which I have tried to see our shared past, to understand its stories, its histories, for almost 50 years. It is my job to try to discern some patterns and themes from the past to help us interpret our dizzyingly confusing and sometimes dismaying present. Without a knowledge of that past, how can we possibly know where we are and, most important, where we are going? Over the years, I've come to understand an important fact, I think, that we are not condemned to repeat what we don't remember. That's a clever, even poetic phrase, but not even close to the truth. Nor are there cycles of history, as the academic community periodically promotes. The Bible, Ecclesiastes to be specific, that's the Old Testament, got it right, I think. What has been will be again. What has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun. What that means is that human nature never changes, or almost never changes. We have continually superimposed our complex and contradictory nature over the seemingly random course of human events. All of our inherent strengths and weaknesses, our greed and generosity, our venality and our virtue parade before our eyes generation after generation after generation. This often gives us the impression that history repeats itself. It does not. No event has ever happened twice. It just rhymes, as Mark Twain is supposed to have said. But maybe thanks to several Virginians and other patriots, there was something new under the sun on July 4th, 1776. You know, I have to admit that I have in many ways made the same film over and over again. As the film said, each one asks a deceptively simple question: who are we? Which is hiding, of course, the deeper, more complicated question, who am I? Who are those complicated people who like to call themselves Americans? What does an investigation of that past tell us about not only who we were, but where we are and where we may be going? Each film offers an opportunity to pursue this question, and while never answering it fully, of course, deepens the question with each succeeding project. Deepens the question, who are we? American history is a loud, raucous, moving, exquisite collection of noises that in the aggregate often combine to make the sweetest kind of music I know. And we have tried to listen to this music as much as we can in putting together the films we have made, the stories we have tried to tell. It is a kind of emotional archaeology that we are attempting, listening to the ghosts and echoes of an almost inexpressibly wise past that paradoxically in the end points us confidently toward those future horizons that will comprise our fate as individuals, as communities, as colleges, universities, as a country. Listen. One day, in January of 1838, shortly before his 29th birthday, a tall, thin lawyer prone to bouts of debilitating depression addressed the Young Men's Lyceum in Springfield, Illinois. The topic was foreign policy. At what point shall we expect the approach of danger, he asked his audience. Shall some transatlantic giant step the earth and crush us at a blow? Then he answered his own question. Never. All the armies of Europe, Asia, and Africa could not by force take a drink from the Ohio River or make a track in the Blue Ridge in the trial of 1,000 years. If destruction be our lot, we must ourselves be its author and finisher. As a nation of free men, we must live through all time or die by suicide. It is a stunning, remarkable statement. That young man was, of course, Abraham Lincoln, and he would go on to preside over the closest this country has ever come to near national suicide, our Civil War, and yet embedded in his extraordinary, disturbing, and prescient words is a fundamental optimism. Do you see it? That implicitly acknowledges the geographical force field two mighty oceans and two relatively benign neighbors, north and south, have provided for us since the British burned the White House in the War of 1812. Lincoln's words that day suggest what is so great and so good about the people who happen to inhabit this lucky and exquisite country of ours. That's the world the students here inherit. Our work ethic, our restlessness, our innovation and our improvisation, our communities and our institutions of higher learning, our suspicion of power. The fact that we seem resolutely dedicated to parsing the meaning between individual and collective freedom, what I want versus what we need. That we are also dedicated to understanding what your alum Thomas Jefferson really meant when he wrote that mysterious phrase, the pursuit of happiness. Hint, it happens right here in lifelong learning and perpetual improvement this institution is committed to. But the isolation of those two oceans has also helped to incubate habits and patterns less beneficial to us. Our devotion to money and guns and conspiracies, our certainty about everything, our stubborn insistence on our own exceptionalism, blinding us to that which needs repair, especially with regard to race. Our preoccupation with always making the other wrong at an individual as well as a global level. We must be on guard and never toss the baby out with the bathwater. I am reminded of what, thank you. I am reminded of what the journalist I.F. Stone once said to a young acolyte who was profoundly disappointed in his mentor's admiration for Thomas Jefferson. It's because history is tragedy, Stone admonished him, not melodrama. It is the perfect response. In melodrama, all villains are perfectly villainous and all heroes are perfectly virtuous. But life isn't like that. You know that in your guts, nor is our history. Thomas Jefferson, your alum, for all his flaws, distilled a century of Enlightenment thinking into one of the most important sentences ever written. Inspiration for centuries of revolution and the expansion of rights and justice. But the late historian Arthur Schlesinger Jr. was fond of reminding us that we suffer today from too much pluribus and not enough unum. He was right. Few things survive in these cynical days to remind us of the union from which so many of our personal as well as collective blessings flow. And it is hard not to wonder in an age when the present moment consumes and overshadows all else, our bright past and that dim, unknown future, what finally does endure, what encodes and stores the genetic material of our civilization, passing down to the next generation the best of us, what we hope will mutate into betterness for our children and our posterity. History holds one answer. Nothing in our daily life offers more of the comfort of continuity, the generational connection of belonging to a vast and complicated American family, the powerful sense of home, the spiritual as well as material benefit of shared sacrifice, the freedom from time's constraints, and the great gift of accumulated memory than does an active and heartfelt engagement with our collective past. To this day, I do not remember what feeble question I asked Arthur Miller. It doesn't really matter now, I suppose, but Arthur's few-sentence answer constituted the sum total of the interview, and it has stayed with me, like the panic, the rest of my life. He said, "You see, the city is fundamentally a practical utilitarian invention, and it always was. And then suddenly you see this steel poetry sticking there, and it's a shock. It puts everything to shame, and it makes you wonder what else we could have done that was so marvelous and so unpresumptuous. It carries its weights, it does what it's supposed to do, and yet, they could have built another Manhattan Bridge, and Roebling didn't. He really aspired to do something gorgeous. So it makes you feel that maybe you too could add something that would last and be beautiful." That was the whole interview. Maybe you too could add something that would last and be beautiful. Those words became the final words of my very first film. In a way, they became like the declaration of principles the young and still idealistic Charles Foster Kane tacks to the wall in Orson Welles' great masterpiece, Citizen Kane, my guiding principle as well. I am not sure how well I have been able to live up to the creed Arthur Miller so generously gave to me that afternoon, but I could not help but think of his words again as we gather together today. It applies to all of us, young or old. Do something that will last and be beautiful. It doesn't have to be a bridge or a symphony or a book or a business or the United States of America, as Jefferson, Washington, Madison, and Henry could claim. It could be the look in the eye of a child you raise with love or in the simple garden you tend. But above all, do something that will last and be beautiful. Thank you.
I was first introduced to then Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger by a close mutual friend, Bill Mims. I was immediately struck by Abigail's authenticity, her genuine inquisitiveness, and the quality of the questions she asked. Sees the good in others, even those who may disagree with her, and naturally and easily brings people together.
I always knew I wanted to pursue a career in public service. I grew up in a household where my dad talked about there's no higher calling than service to country. He was an Army veteran and then a career federal agent, and my mother, throughout her career, was a nurse.
What really stands out to me about Governor Spanberger's career has been her commitment to service. First in law enforcement, then in national security and intelligence working for the CIA, and then she made a big decision to run for Congress in Virginia. And after 3 terms of a successful service in Congress, she made even a more important decision to run for governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia.
One of the things I love to hear along the campaign trail or when I'm out and about is, I didn't vote for you, but, and then whatever comes after that but is usually recognition of work I'm doing or had done that made someone feel seen or impacted their life in a meaningful way. I think during my time as the representative for Virginia's 7th District, there were a couple different things that for me are the most defining. I led and ultimately passed and got it signed into law a bill called the Social Security Fairness Act, which meaningfully impacts hundreds of thousands of Virginians and Americans across the country. And then the other success that I am really proud of is just the work that I did directly in communities and making sure that people know that they're valued by those who are serving them, I think really, really matters.
I think what people ought to know about Governor Spanberger is she is truly an authentic person. She cares deeply about people. She's humble, and she's somebody who really goes to work every day to try to do her very best for all Virginians.
I don't know that I can put into words what it means to me to be receiving an honorary degree from William & Mary. There's a couple pieces. I mean, one, it's the storied place of William & Mary in American history, and then it's also the people who've come before me in receiving this honor have set just incredible examples for me as a person and as a public servant. And my mother's going to be so excited. Oh, my mother loves William & Mary. She's going to be so excited.
Your Excellency. Abigail Davis Spanberger, in 2025, you were elected the 75th Governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Last month, you made history as the first woman to hold Virginia's highest office. At your inauguration, you swore faithfully and impartially to execute the duties incumbent upon this office. The alma mater of the nation honors your oath of service. You learned the value of service early from your parents. Your mother put herself through nursing school. Your father, United States Army veteran, attended school on the GI Bill and became a career law enforcement officer. Your parents' faith and civic engagement inspired your own civic-minded growth. You began your career as a U.S. Postal Inspection Service, where you investigated narcotics and money laundering, often the only woman on the arrest team. From 2006 to 2014, you served as a case officer for the Central Intelligence Agency, investigating and averting threats to the United States. In 2018, you brought this formidable track record to Congress. Over 3 consecutive terms as a lawmaker, you earned a reputation for collaboration and consensus building. Your bipartisan leadership bolstered infrastructure, agriculture, and public education in Virginia. As governor, you have already identified public education and support for veterans as key imperatives. William & Mary, the country's first university, applauds your commitment to these public goods. We stand ready to support your efforts to advance our Commonwealth and all its citizens. Abigail Davis Spanberger, your abiding sense of duty to others will serve you well as the 75th Governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia.
By virtue of the authority vested in me by the Board of Visitors and the ancient royal charter of the College of William & Mary in Virginia, I hereby confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Public Service, honoris causa. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Director.
I'll just put it over here.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to the William & Mary community. Thank you, President Rowe. Thank you, Rector Poston, members of the Board of Visitors. Thank you for this tremendous honor. I am humbled to receive this honor from an institution that has shaped civic leaders since 1693. I'm also humbled to stand here with Chancellor Robert Gates. Mr. Director, Mr. Secretary, Mr. Chancellor, you have shown the United States again and again your commitment to service and leadership and duty, and how to always put our country first. May we all learn this lesson anew.
Your position as Chancellor stretches back to the Bishop of London and the Archbishop of Canterbury. It was held by our first president, a little bit longer than you, so we've got some time for you to meet that standard. And centuries later, your position was held by a British Prime Minister because this historic university chose to honor the special relationship between our countries. And 333 years is a long time, and it is an honor to be with all of you today, especially the students. Thank you for welcoming me into this extraordinary space. To Ken Burns, welcome back to Virginia. And to the audience, please remember that they put me after Ken Burns. Your films do something extraordinary. Their storytelling help us understand who we are by showing us where we've been and who has come before us. You have identified through lines in the stories and events that shaped who we are as Americans. By looking to history, you help us understand what's happening right now. Your films do more than simply document the past. They make us feel it and understand its lessons for today. And as we celebrate in this Charter Day, this university, and all that it represents, its history, in the years since America's 250th, it is an honor to be with you all in Williamsburg. And again, to the students, the faculty, and the alumni of William & Mary, thank you for this honor. You know, I did a lot of reading and thinking in the days and weeks leading up to the inauguration last month. And I kept asking myself questions about the governors who have come before me. What were they thinking in the moments they were inaugurated? What challenges were they facing? What did Virginia need from them? And it's remarkable how today's challenges look a lot like those we have faced before. In Virginia, we mark 2 anniversaries this year. We commemorate the 250 years since our independence and the 250th anniversary of the inauguration of Virginia's first post-colonial governor, Patrick Henry. Now, Governor Henry was often lauded as a great orator. His words gave shape to American independence. When he rose at St. John's Church in Richmond and cried, "Give me liberty or give me death," his words spurred action, and a revolution would follow. And in reading some of Henry's other work to gain some inspiration, I came across the very last speech Patrick Henry ever delivered. It was in 1799 in the town of Charlotte Courthouse, almost right in the middle of our Commonwealth. He was in failing health and he would die a few weeks later. But he felt so strongly about what he had to say that he rose to speak. Here's what struck me. Only one generation removed from the birth of our nation, less than 25 years, Governor Henry was worried. He was worried, and he spoke about division, about hyper-partisan factions tearing our country apart, about the loudest voices in the room winning out over the most thoughtful minds. And his call to action was to not let it pull our nation, at that time a nascent nation, apart. If it sounds familiar, it did to me because I went on to read more from other former governors. I was listening for echoes across the centuries, and I came across the inaugural address of Governor Linwood Holton. And both of these governors I referenced in my inaugural speech because I was struck by the times in which they lived and the message that they delivered. Governor Holton was one of Virginia's most consequential governors. He was the first Republican governor elected in Virginia since Reconstruction, and he made it his mission to move the Commonwealth past the era of massive resistance. He's one of Virginia's unsung heroes, and he was inaugurated in 1970, a time of enormous political upheaval. The country was divided over Vietnam, over civil rights, over the very direction of our nation. And Virginia, too, was at a crossroads. And Governor Holton addressed a crowd gathered at the Capitol and said that partisan gamesmanship needed to end and that it was time to start rowing the boat in the same direction for change and for progress. And that was a revolutionary thing to say in Virginia in 1970. And it doesn't take much to draw a line from Henry to Holton to right now. When you draw that line, you can see that Virginia has faced bitterly divided times before. And in fact, I had the occasion to spend a bit of time with Mr. Burns yesterday, and we discussed this very point, that we as a nation have faced harder moments. We have faced greater divisions. We've faced greater hardships, and we have always found a way forward. It isn't always easy or quick, but we have made our way. We find that way. And that requires a few things. It requires political leadership, yes, but it also takes something stronger than that. It takes people. It takes civic leadership. It takes engaged, informed citizens choosing service to one another over self-interest. Everyday Americans choosing community over chaos and division. People, neighbors, community leaders, choosing the pursuit of our common good. We all have a role to play in shaping our communities and our collective future. Civic leadership takes many forms, and that's exactly what William and Mary's Year of Civic Leadership recognizes and is about. It rests on a simple but powerful conviction that knowledge carries responsibility and that wisdom must be placed in service to the common good, that civic leaders listen across differences, reason with care, and act with integrity. That's a roadmap for how we get through times like these. And there is no better place to launch an effort like this than here. American democracy was born here, and we're working to perfect it still today. In Virginia, in Williamsburg, on this very campus. This is where George Wythe taught law and mentored Thomas Jefferson and John Marshall. This is where James Madison studied before he went on to build the framework of our Constitution. It was here that the first law school was founded in America, in a budding nation founded on ideas and principles, not familial lineage or territorial borders or conquests or claims, but a nation born of ideas and built on the rule of law. And our first law school was here. For more than 3 centuries, this university has sent its graduates into the world to think, to act, to serve. It is the alma mater of the nation. It is the alma mater of our nation. That legacy is something to celebrate. And yet, when we're being honest, our history is not all celebration. Virginia's story includes chapters that we are still reckoning with: colonialism, slavery, segregation, the ongoing struggle for civil rights, women's equality. This includes, by the way, the experience of women at this university. William and Mary rightly celebrates being among the first of Virginia's schools to admit women way back in 1918. But of course, it was only white women at that time who were admitted. And while we celebrate the progress of being so early as a place, the history behind it reveals something worth seeing. Back in 1918, the First World War had caused a reduction in male students at the university. And the university was facing challenging financial circumstances. And the push and the decision ultimately to admit women, it wasn't wholly based in that pursuit of progress. But in the face of great opposition, progress was made. And yet it took decades before Black students were allowed to study in residence here. I revisit this history not to dampen the pride at being among the first to see progress, but to put it in perspective. Because the people who came before us, they faced hardships, challenges, and in this case, newspaper articles claiming that the decision to admit women had come, quote, at the price of the womanhood Virginia had cherished as a sacred thing. I wonder what the writer of that article would think about a woman president at the university. Or a woman governor. If we take anything away from Ken Burns and his work, it's that understanding our past, people, and events requires that we see it all. We honor our history by absorbing it and learning from it, and by committing ourselves to build upon progress and do better than those who came before us. And think about this. Just this morning, I signed my first piece of legislation as governor. It was the ballot language for a proposed constitutional amendment that will go before the people of Virginia this November. When passed, this constitutional amendment will guarantee marriage equality in our Commonwealth. But it won't just enshrine the rights of same-sex couples to marry, it will remove the ban on same-sex marriage that was put in our Constitution in 2006. But think about that for a moment. This constitutional amendment, it will pass in November. I will work hard to make sure that it does. I know it will, but think about that for a moment. In 2006, our Commonwealth went so far as to amend our Constitution to ban same-sex marriage. And 20 years later, we will move forward to remove that ban and guarantee marriage equality. There will be people who voted for the 2006 amendment who this year will vote for the 2026 amendment. And certainly, for those who may not, their children and their grandchildren may. That's stunning. That is progress, and it is the result of an engaged citizenry asserting over and over that the rights of our neighbors matter. And so sometimes progress can come quickly, and sometimes it takes a long time, but it requires that civic engagement and leadership. Our founders were imperfect. Those who came before us were imperfect, and we are imperfect. But our founders, they did get one thing right. They chose to call Virginia a Commonwealth. It was a conscious decision in response to the tyranny we had faced at the hands of the British monarchy. They chose it to signify that our government would be based on the power of the people united for a common good, not for a king, not for a political party, not for any other allegiance, but for the common good together. That's what being a commonwealth means. And that, at its heart, to make that commonwealth successful, that requires all of us. That requires civic leadership. We have faced divisions, we have faced lawless leaders, we have faced hardships before, and we will face them again. The question is whether we are setting an example of hope, determination, and civic engagement for the next generation as they prepare for the challenges that will confront them. And for those of us who may be worried about that preparation, I will say being here at William & Mary demonstrates that we need not worry. William & Mary is doing the work of preparing the next generation to be civic leaders. For 3 centuries, William & Mary has set a standard for forming engaged citizens. The liberal arts thrive here, teaching people to think critically, to listen across differences, and to engage in the hard work of self-governance. William & Mary has been doing this since 1693, and even though Virginia has faced uncertainty and divisions before, in my lifetime, this work has never been more important. So to the students here today, you are inheriting a country, a commonwealth, founded in extraordinary ideals, and we are still striving to live up to them. And that process creates challenges and hurdles on that path towards progress. And I look at all of you and I feel incredibly hopeful. You are the products of an institution that has been preparing leaders for more than 3 centuries. You will leave this place ready to do your part to make our country and our commonwealth even better. That's the tradition that you are inheriting, a tradition of Virginians who chose to lead, who believed the future could be better than the past, and who did the work to make it so. That tradition passes on to you. And I am so grateful for the opportunity to join your community today with this extraordinary honor. So thank you again to Chancellor Gates, to President Rowe, to Rector Poston and the Board of Visitors members for this honor. And to the William & Mary family, thank you for your commitment to civic leadership and for 3 centuries of service to Virginia and the country. Go Tribe.
How much fun is it to thank Her Excellency, Governor Spanberger, and America's storyteller, Ken Burns. We are grateful to both of you for your commitment to our democracy. It shone so clearly tonight. I want to take an extra moment just to welcome Virginia's first gentleman, sitting next to William & Mary's first gentleman, Adam Spanberger. And Governor Spanberger's parents right there. It's great to have William & Mary fans here. Wow. Thank you all for celebrating with us. And now, because Charter Day is a birthday party, we have a very special performance of Happy Birthday, William & Mary, by the Botetourt Chamber Singers. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, William and Mary. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you for ringing in 333 on a high note. And thank you all for joining us. There are just a few ceremonial flourishes left. Students, super important, please cast your vote for the Royal Court at the mezzanine level, right? The results will be announced this evening at the Green and Gold Bash, hosted by the indefatigable AMP and the Student Assembly. In a moment, we will retire the colors. The platform party will then recess out. Audience, please remain in your seat until they depart. We conclude, as always, with the alma mater. Please stand and sing as you are able. Choir, take it away.
Hark the students' voices swelling, strong and true and clear. Alma maters love their telling, ringing far and near. William and Mary, loved of old, hark upon the gale. Hear the thunder of our chorus, alma mater hail. God our Father, hear our voices, listen to our cry. Bless the college of our fathers, let her never die. William and Mary,